All right, everybody, welcome back. We are diving deep today and going all the way to India.
Ooh, India.
We're going to be looking at Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Yeah.
And specifically,
interesting guy.
the narrative surrounding him.
Yeah.
You know, you hear the story.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's heard the story.
The chaiwala.
The chaiwala.
Who became prime minister.
The tea seller who rose to become prime minister.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at that today.
Absolutely.
Based on excerpts from pasted text.
Okay.
And basically kind of looking at how much of that story is truth and how much of it is just very carefully crafted narrative.
Yeah.
And, you know, what does that say?
What does it tell us about the
way politics and perception all
interplay,
yeah, in this
especially in this digital age,
digital world, right?
Where information spreads like wildfire.
Exactly.
Narratives can just take on a life of their own.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It is.
So,
so where do you want to begin?
I guess we could start with that story.
Sure.
You know, that
the tea seller.
The chaiwala story.
The chaiwala narrative. It's incredibly powerful.
I've heard it.
Oh, I'm sure. It's a good story.
It resonates with so many people in India.
Right.
It speaks to their values.
Right.
Hard work, resilience. The idea that anyone can rise to the top.
Right.
Regardless of where they come from.
It's a very powerful.
But it's a very compelling narrative.
Compelling narrative.
Absolutely.
But what's interesting is in these excerpts we have here, there's terms like
what kind of embellished?
Embellished.
Okay.
Partially fabricated.
Interesting.
And they even mention a journalist.
Oh, really?
Who investigated this and couldn't find evidence that Modi actually ever was.
Couldn't corroborate.
A tea seller.
Interesting.
So what's going on here?
That's what's so interesting, right?
Yeah. So we have this narrative that's powerful, that's compelling, that resonates with people. But there's these questions about its veracity. Yeah. And how does it spread? Like, how does it spread? How does it become so ingrained?
How does it become so...
in the public consciousness?
Ingrained.
Yeah. And I think that's where they bring in... They talk about...
WhatsApp University.
Ah, yes. WhatsApp University.
Which is...
not a real university, of course.
Not a real university.
Yeah.
It's this digital space...
Ecosystem
where information spreads. Like misinformation, opinions, propaganda.
All mixed together.
Swirling around in this
breeding ground.
Digital cauldron.
Or narrative.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how they talk about how effectively it's solidified the tea seller narrative through WhatsApp University.
It's repeated like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
On a
massive scale.
Massive scale.
With real political content. Political way. It's not just a game anymore. This is shaping how people
live the world.
Public perception.
Yeah, and it's shaping how they vote.
Yeah.
That's the key here.
Yeah, and they even talk about...
What about how?
They even talk about how this narrative, you can see it playing out in his campaigns.
Political campaigns.
There's images of him
serving tea. Evoking these
speeches that bring up his
humble beginnings.
And they constantly
emphasizing his connection.
Emphasize the fact that he's
to the common man.
A man of the people.
He understands the struggles of everyday people.
He understands their struggles.
He's one of them.
Right.
That's the message.
But it's
powerful.
It's powerful, but I'm just like, wouldn't people see through this? I mean, if a journalist can't find any evidence.
Of course. There are always those who question the narrative.
Yeah.
Those who dig deeper, who look for the facts.
Yeah.
But the power of a story like this...
It's a good story.
Especially one that resonates so deeply with cultural aspirations. It can often outweigh factual scrutiny.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes
people want to believe.
Yeah.
They want to believe in the story.
It's even if there are holes in it.
Cracks
in the narrative.
Because it feels good.
Yeah.
It gives them hope.
It reinforces
their beliefs.
What they want to believe.
About the world.
Right.
About their country. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's where the danger lies.
Right.
Because
it's not just a story.
It's not just an entertaining tale.
It's
about shaping public perception.
It's about influencing how people vote.
It's about
It has real world consequences.
Consequences.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're trying to get at.
That's the core of it.
In this excerpt.
Yeah.
Because
it's not just about Modi.
It's not just about Modi.
It's about how narratives,
It's just about
how can be used, and they can be crafted
to manipulate,
to
control, to win elections, and it's something we need to be aware of.
They even say that.
They talk about how oversimplifying Modi's political journey, it obscures other aspects of
his rise to power. His policies.
It doesn't talk about his
alliances, the complexities of his political maneuvering.
It doesn't talk about...
It paints a very simplistic picture.
Yeah.
A very black and white picture.
It's very...
When in reality,
very...
politics is much more nuanced.
It's much more gray. There are shades of gray everywhere.
Yeah.
And so by focusing on this one narrative, we might be missing...
We miss the
bigger picture.
The
complexity, the nuances.
And that's what's dangerous.
That's the danger.
It's about a narrative that's so...
all-encompassing.
That it shuts down...
All-encompassing.
Other conversations, other perspectives. It creates this...
echo chamber.
Tunnel vision where only one story is allowed.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous in a democracy.
Really scary.
Because a democracy thrives on
debate, ideas,
on multiple perspectives, on challenging the status quo.
Narratives
included.
So, I mean, it really makes you wonder.
It does. In this age of instant information, how do we even begin?
Where everybody has...
a platform and a voice.
From strategically crafted narrative.
Right.
It's a challenge we face globally.
Yeah, it's not just...
not just in India.
An Indian problem.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's in our politics.
It's in our media.
In our social media.
In our daily lives.
In the stories we tell ourselves about the world.
So how do we do that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I mean...
That's what we all need to be thinking about.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
What can we do?
Well, I think...
How can we be...
We need to develop a critical lens.
More critical.
We need to question the stories we're told.
We need to.
We need to examine the sources of information.
Yeah. Look at where it's coming from.
Who's telling the story?
Right.
What are their motivations?
What are their motivations?
What are their biases?
Right.
Be
wary of narratives that feel
anything that's too
overly simplistic, emotional, manipulative.
Yeah,
because those are often
usually there's
red flags. There's an agenda behind them.
There's an agenda.
Someone is trying to push a certain viewpoint,
push a certain narrative.
Yeah,
it's almost like we need.
It's like we need a
crash course
in Narrative 101.
Yeah, Narrative 101. For the digital age.
We all need
to be
more media literate.
How to decipher, how to analyze the narratives we're bombarded with every day.
Exactly.
Because the more we understand how narratives are constructed and disseminated, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this
informed decisions,
this complex information landscape.
It's very
and to make informed decisions.
It's very complicated.
It is.
So,
listeners out there, next time you encounter a political story. That's very compelling.
That feels particularly compelling.
Ask yourself. What's the
narrative here? And who benefits from it? Because
there's always an angle.
So
it's a question of figuring out what it is.
Exactly.
So that's all for this
deep dive into the world of narrative.
Into Indian politics and narrative.
And its power.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you learned something.
And we hope you'll...
Think twice.
Next
time about the story.
You hear a story.
You're told.
It sounds a little too good to be true.
Because sometimes...
Thanks for joining us.
They are.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.